okay, but just let me ask. Just let me say this, because so often I find that people who call themselves libertarian are often people who really identify conservatively, but they're kind of like they don't want to say that they're conservative. So
what I mean by that is that I'm not gonna beat around the bush or anything, but I'm saying that libertarian, I identify more on social issues with the libertarian, or you could say right wing on more contemporary social issues than before. So if you really want to put me in that frame, then fine.
All right. Okay. I think I know what you're talking about, but we'll see if we venture into that territory. So anyhow, let's move on.
Swegta, do you have any idea what the fuck is going on?
Oh, I guess we're gonna have to stop this debate.
No. Just pre-record the episode if we have to, because whatever.
We have a backup. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up. I think it's on Twitch's end. Nothing has changed as far as our settings go, and yeah, OBS is not telling me that I'm dropping frames. I don't know.
All right, I guess we're doing a pre-recorded episode.
Rip. Oh boy, I'll tell the others.
You guys better get your shit together if I'm gonna be on the show again, you assholes.
Oh shit!
I expect professionalism from my interview shows that I do at 11 o'clock in the evening. All right, let's go on.
Which you agreed to, and then showed up late to.
So we're keeping that.
I was right on the dot. I was told 11 o'clock.
All right, and now I'm going to ask another question, because if not, then we'll just never get through with this episode.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's see. Is there anyone in particular who you think is a good voice in politics here on YouTube currently? Maybe someone who's underrated? I guess I'll ask Vadim questions first.
Underrated?
Sure.
I mean, there's a guy called the Rational National who I think is underrated. I understand why he's not that well watched, because I mean he makes good videos, but he doesn't like have any of the like trappings of like he has an understated personality, but his politics and insights are pretty on point. I mean, in terms of like political commentators, I mean, it depends. If you're talking about like actual like commentary video, or rather video makers who are like essayists. I love a lot of the like a lot of common names these days. Philosophy Tube, ContraPoints, fucking. Three Arrows and Sean and Jen, they're all fucking on point, and they do great research, very wry, witty humor, and but then when you're talking about like actual like news people, Rational National is somebody. I like Secular Talk. I mean, I like I have certain problems with them every now and then, but I do like TYT overall.
That's one of my next questions too. I'm gonna have you guys.
For sure. I mean, there are things about TYT. I mean, I was you happen to know this. I was in a conversation which turned into an argument with
Jimmy Dore. Yeah,
Jimmy Dore. So I mean, I certainly can't be. I don't think anyone can say that like I am just completely uncritical of either my own side or of TYT. So yeah, I guess I'll just hand it over to Aids because I don't want to overtalk it.
All right, yeah, that's
okay. Political YouTubers, most of them I watch kind of ironically or when I'm bored.
Okay.
I really like Louis Levi and V. I know you think that those people are jerks.
No, he doesn't have a problem with V.
I mean, I have a problem with some of V's views, but I think that V is a weird character. I look at him as I mean, well, yeah, no matter how you look at it, it's a weird character. But I think that he's someone who has a very particular point of view because he's Romanian. And I happen to know, I'm not going to go into it, but I know like what his childhood was like, because I know about like the revolution that occurred at the, so basically I think his politics are really fucked up and terrible, but it's sort of like I almost give him a free pass because I kind of think like, if I grew
He's a
up
Romanian.
in that
He can't think for himself.
like in that, it's probably better than it was. But like when he was like we're around the same age, and
I'm sorry, Vadim. I was supposed to be talking.
Okay, I just want to say.
That's right.
His childhood was a hellscape. So anyway, there you go.
As far as what I think of your favorite YouTubers, again, they make well-produced videos, but their politics, I could not care for at all. They're just, they piss me off. I hate them.
Okay,
Moving on.
That's fine. I mean, can you be like can you name some issues that you happen to disagree with them on?
Just generally, I disagree with them fundamentally. I really can't.
Because
I don't watch their videos. I've watched like a couple of their videos where I know what they're trying to argue with, and they do like well-researched videos. But like the way they interpret their arguments, H-bomber guy or whatever, this video where just threw a bunch of peer-reviewed papers to prove that gender is on a spectrum and all that shit, and it was just, again, he wasn't really like, he wasn't really trying to argue. He was just like, look at all these peer-reviewed papers.
I'm sorry. How is that not admissible though? If it's a genuinely peer-reviewed paper from a well-respected journal, and this isn't like
I've looked at these.
Yeah,
and they're not really well researched. I'm sorry.
That's not true. I mean, they were published. I mean, the main one that he discusses was published in what is it, American Science, or I'm trying to remember the name, but the main one that he discusses is it's pretty much one of the most well-respected science journals in the world, so to say that like it's, I mean, like I mean, well, what is your credentials? What are you grading this with? Like if you're like some sort of, if you have like an undergraduate in biology or a graduate, if you're like something to make you like some sort of authority, then maybe I'll take you a little more seriously on this.
Okay, so there was an article that you linked, Twitter debates, about like redefining sex or whatever. You tried to prove to me that biological sex was on a spectrum, which really irked me because I know you don't believe this, but I think that it's total bullshit. And
no, I don't necessarily disbelieve that. Like I mean, I like tomorrow if a like if a good deal of like research was out there to say to the contrary, in a second I would be like, okay, yeah, well, but and also people when people say that there's a spectrum, they like they make it sound like scientists are trying to say like there's this huge amount of people that are like well, when they're really just kind of including people who are just out of the norm, but no, that is a spectrum.
But Dean, you linked me an article. I researched the article. I had a bunch of people look at the article. The article stated that intersex people make up 1 in 100 people. I went to the National Institute of Health.gov, and they said that study included things that had nothing to do with intersex, and that by using the actual correct definition of intersex, it was 100 times less than it actually was. So if you're going to tell me that that's not a valid interpretation of statistics at all.
I don't think it would be published in it's Nature, actually. That's the place that published it. And I truly don't think that they don't publish bullshit. Now, at the same time, it being a peer-reviewed article, that doesn't mean that it's infallible. It can be it can be wrong, like it can be shown through more more discovery and more study, like that it's incorrect. But I mean, basically it comes down to semantics. I mean, like they define, they're looking at a very broad range of cases, and kind of saying like that sex is that not everything fits into a rigid male and female. And they don't just discuss they do mention intersex, but they do, and it's been a long time since I've read that, but I do recall that they talk about like people having abnormal chromosomes, and there's all sorts of ways that people like kind of like fit in between. So
okay, well, here's the problem I have with that, Vadim. You could literally apply the whole spectrum argument to pretty much anything: arms, legs, heads.
No, not. I mean, you could. Yes, you could. You could say. I mean,
something's
like
wrong.
technically,
they're not normal.
Yeah, I would not mind that. Like I personally wouldn't mind that if somebody said, because of the fact that there is such a thing as two-headed like
fetuses.
Twins, that there is a spectrum that goes between one and. Well, who the fuck cares?
No. Okay, well, here's what I care about. I care about people lying about science. I care about.
It's not lying. It's not lying. It's
bullshit.
See, this is the thing. Like they what they're doing is that they're trying to look at the broad spectrum of humanity and just kind of explain. I mean, this is my understanding. I'm certainly not an expert on this matter, and I'm not like qualified to discuss it like with authority. But from my understanding, what they're doing is that they're just trying to be more precise and say like it's not just male and female, and you have to admit that there is more than just male and female in the world. Even if but there is, even if the what constitutes the exceptions is exceptionally small.
What do you mean by that?
There's others.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, well, right off the bat,
intersex people, by people who are hermaphrodites, the 0.0019% of the population.
Sure, there you go. That's statistically
that have a disorder, that have all kinds of mental defects. I mean, mental and physical defects. I don't
understand. This is what you wanted to talk about. This is why I'm here. Talk about this is pretty.
I do think that we should move on to something else eventually, because I don't want.
This was my main thing that I have gripe with. This is what caused me to go on a giant Twitter rant a year ago.
What? No. The argument that you and I had, and it wasn't just you and I, it was a bunch of other people, and you were kind of a dick, to tell you the truth.
I know you think that.
You were seriously.
Wait, hold on. You mean to tell me that AIDS was a dick? Oh
shit.
Who would have thought?
No, he was a dick because up until that point, it's sort of like
I know what you mean.
You can have these conversations in like a number of ways, and basically like AIDS and I had always been on pretty good terms, and then all of a sudden he was just he was obnoxious with about like maybe it was like 3 or 4 other people, but it was a few other people, and it was just like, what the fuck? And that wasn't the intersex thing was not what we were talking about. We were talking about we were talking about child
XYXX determination.
That is not what we were discussing.
That's what we were talking about, Vadim. That's how it originated.
We were discussing transgenderism and research as it applies to children.
That wasn't what we were actually arguing about. You're thinking of something else. I don't remember. We didn't argue about transgenderism in children. Although I think I pointed out to you that I was disgusted by your your stance on transgenderism in children. But
yeah,
we were arguing,
and I think that your outlook on it is woefully ignorant, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay, how about this? How about this? Like, Vadim, you can explain. I can hear myself. Blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Vadim, please explain why, and then after like a couple minutes, Aids, you can jump in and give your response to that.
Well, you know, I mean, like I would with any matter that has to do with medical science and matters of this nature, I defer to the overwhelming number of experts. And the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of endocrinologists and, you know, just people who are experts in the relevant fields, they understand that, like, this phenomena does indeed occur, just like you have at a very young age, you have a capability of understanding like your sexuality. Like, you know, like I knew I was attracted to women when I was when I was a child. I didn't need, and if somebody said, like, tried to force me to be like gay, like I wouldn't have been able to. Like it's the same, it's often the same thing. Now, it doesn't always manifest itself. Sometimes it seems to kind of, you know, depending on the person, it manifests itself in different ways, but there's no reason why I mean, the reason why we kind of allow children or kind of prescribe gender therapies to or you know, transgender therapies to these kids is because there's decades of research to all of this. And the last thing that I'll just say is that the people who are kind of resistant to these facts that I'm kind of throwing out here, they try and act as though the entire like medical field is just crazy. And no, keep laughing in the background in order to you know, just undercut what the fuck I'm saying. But,
okay, you know, it's been 2 minutes, so
yeah.
No.
Like I'm moderating this, so like you've had 2 minutes. He's gonna give his response, and then you can counter that.
Yeah.
When he talks, I'm not going to be like laughing underneath.
Sure. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. Like, try not to interrupt anyone. If it's funny, that's fine. But like, you know, try to keep it down.
Those things are distracting, and it keeps me from like making my actual point. So I'd like to just finish the point that I was going to say, which is just that there are some doctors who are you know, in the minority, and overwhelmingly these people are parts of like Christian fundamentalist groups that are like the main group that is against transgenderism, or rather that is against children transitioning. That group is the same group that originally was like opposing gay marriage, like
all right. Hey, Aids, don't do that.
True. It's absolutely true. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Aids.
Oh my god. Okay, so are you in favor of puberty blocking? That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm in.
I don't want to like jump to conclusions about what you believe.
I'm in favor of it when it's prescribed, when someone has. Because the thing is that like a lot of people have this idea that puberty blockers are just prescribed willy-nilly, and there's a word that I don't often use.
Willy-nilly.
Like, but it's prescribed usually with years of all different types of therapy of you know, they have already been I forget what the word is, but they've been living as a as the other sex, and they have seen endocrinologists, they've seen psychiatrists, they've seen all different types of therapists. I mean, there's a great deal of experts that they go to before they make that informed decision. So yes, just like there's a whole bunch of medical, like procedures that have nothing to do with transgenderism, where someone has to kind of weigh the pros and cons.
All right,
so if there is a legitimate diagnosis in place that actually warrants that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like if you take there's one. You know what? I'll tell you what. Because of the fact that I've been talking a lot, just allow me when I'd like to throw the floor over to Aids, because I realize I've been talking a lot. But just allow me to tell you guys a story once he says what he has.
Sure, yeah. Go ahead, say your piece.
I genuinely think that I don't know what age range you are thinking of when you're talking about children transitioning, but again, I don't think that children under the age of, let's say, 16 are capable of making that decision, especially when I don't know if you think that this is just Christian fundamentalist bullshit, but a lot of people who think that they are, again, who prescribe gender onto them, who think that they're a girl or think that they're a boy, really don't know the psychological and philosophical implications of what that means. And
do you realize, can I just ask a quick question? Do you realize that not taking puberty blockers creates, do you realize the penumbra of problems that it creates for someone later in life if they do not take them?
That's the risk that you're taking, but it's still better than just outright mutilating yourself, like chemically.
But it's not, though, because puberty blockers are completely reversible. If you're talking about taking hormones, that's a completely different thing. But puberty blockers, you can look it up. It's plenty. There are plenty of, again, you seem to have a problem with good peer-reviewed places, but there are plenty of like people who've discussed it, who like have said that they're completely reversible. So it's not chemically castrating you. That's taking hormones. That's a different step in the process. What puberty blockers do is that it just temporarily blocks you from experiencing puberty.
When do you say that this is the right time? Do you think that there's a moment where it's too far that you shouldn't be putting your children on?
Well, I mean, the experts believe that, I think it's called the Tanner stage, which is somewhere between 11 to 13. I mean, it depends if you're a boy or a girl, and in order to go on those, and like, why don't you talk a little bit more, because I do have an example to I know that it's one example is not necessarily indicative of the whole, but I think that it's a story that kind of is illustrative.
Okay, well, do you trust the American College of
Do I trust you dropped out for a second.
Do you trust the American College of Pediatricians? Are they a valid source, or there's those evil Christian right wingers that are just too dumb?
I would have to look them up. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know if they're a valid source or not.
What about PubMed Central, PMC? Is that a right wing evil Christian?
PubMed is just a publisher of a wide range. I mean, you can find.
Well, then what about? But you use magazines from science magazines.
On PubMed, you can find things that are genuinely like excellent. You can also find garbage. So like
All right. Well, the National Institute of Health.gov.
Probably that sounds okay. But let me.
All these studies say that most gender dysphoria is solved in late adolescence. So
no. But the reason for that is, see, this is a very common talking point. But the reason for that is that the studies that they are referring to are studies where basically any child that was diagnosed, like maybe a child was acting a little effeminate and they were actually gay or something like that, that was referred to these places, was counted in these studies. So very, very quickly, most of those kids who are not transgender realize that they are not transgender. They're not necessarily there to be seen for, because they feel like they're a girl. There's a wide range of kind of issues that don't just fall into that, and so they include those, and that's the reason why those papers kind of have such a large amount of people who report that they change. Like honestly, the majority of kids, from what I understand, the majority of kids, once they reach like 12 or 13, most people, like they stay with it. So
okay.
Well,
I think I'm gonna let Eggs. You can say one more thing, and then we're probably gonna talk about something else.
I'm saying are discussing such a. You're painting a broad brush with the medical community, which again I am very skeptical of your claims on how widely agreed this is, despite the fact that I don't really see any medical organizations publicly saying that this is great, this is good. You're using magazines as citations, and I look up these.
I'm not. No, I'm not. Look. The American Academy of Pediatricians is the leading group that when it comes to medical medical opinions and children, they are the most well-respected authority, and they're one of many groups that embrace transgender therapies for children. I mean, they realize that they are imperative in certain cases. If you want, I can send you literature on it. And there's plenty of other huge medical bodies that are literally the among the see this is the thing. I really wish, dude, next time if that we're going to have a certain discussion, let me know, because I didn't know that we were going to be talking about these things. If we were going to be talking about these things, I would have just done had a little bit of research at my fingertips, and I'd just say boom, 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 boom.
You claim that it's uncontroversial.
No, wait a minute. I've got 11 topics here that I was going to ask you guys about. I was not
we
expecting
could switch on to something else if you guys.
In fact,
fuck it. Ask the other question.
Yeah, we are going to move on to something else instead.
No. Well, I do. What I'd like to do is, somewhere I'm going to try and find it, but I have a list somewhere of several very reputable organizations that are very pro child trans stuff. So
if you want to send that to me, and if Eggs wants to send counter sources, I'll put that shit in the description.
I'd like to read it here because we've discussed it, and there's probably some people who are listening who are unsure if I'm correct or not. So I'd like to
just before, can you link it to me as soon as you start reading it out?
I mean, it's not going to take that long to read.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I mean, I'm saying I'm searching for it now, and I'd like the chance to read it later.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can do that later. I'll just ask another question in the meantime. I think this is a pretty good fucking question. So, you guys might even agree on this. I don't even know if you disagree or not. But should the government regulate social media websites like Twitter, YouTube, etc.? And I guess we'll ask Aids this one first, since most of them I ask would.
Yeah, generally with most with really popular public. I mean, platforms, I think that they should become public services.
Wow. I very much disagree, but it's not my debate to have. What do you think, Vadim? Do you agree with him?
I understand why people would think that's a good idea, and there are some people who I really respect who have that opinion. But yeah, I think it would be a disaster. I mean, like, if you put that in the hands of the wrong people, like, you know, they're
Well, yeah.
I don't see why, like, you know, they like the government is necessarily going to make better decisions than certain organizations. Oh, and by the way, I found it. Okay, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, the American College of Osteopathic Pediatricians, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, American Academy of Family Physicians, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Endocrine Society, and the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. So there's others besides those, but those are, if you look into it, those are the leading people who like practice this sort of medicine and do this sort of study. So there you go. All right.
I just generally, again, I don't know how much to the extent like you like to pretend they do or act like they do, but
okay, no. That's bullshit. They let like the when I say that they've done that, they've literally like put out pamphlets where they've discussed like, hey, we endorse this and here's why. Like,
well, then,
like it's not.
Even if they did do that, I still don't think that this is a good practice at all. I just don't think
all right. Well, but you're in disagreement with a like, you know, a conglomerate of people who are like represent literally tens of thousands, possibly like well over 100,000 pediatricians, and you don't have any fucking like what I do is that I listen to what the like majority of experts in the relevant fields have to say about a matter. And this is like it's fine if you disagree, but you can also, I mean, like, it's the same thing that I would say to a young earth creationist who was like, yeah, I don't agree with this you know, journal that is talking about evolution here. You know, it's the same thing that I would say.
Okay, well, evolution is a than this, because again, this is a matter of actual health that is actually affect people. It's quite, creationist is somebody who will deny pretty obvious scientific facts. The medical association are, again, from what I've read, is pretty conflicted about this. This is not a consensus that the valid.
If you think that there's a good deal of conflict, I would say that that's because some propaganda has.
Evil conservative Christians, so dumb. And
all right, guys, don't talk over each other. Don't talk over each other. Vadim, what were you gonna say? And then,
well, I was just saying that it's obvious that there's some propaganda out there that has done a good job on this guy, and I understand, because you know what, there are a lot of YouTubers who spread this bullshit and kind of propagate this stuff as if it's more, there's more to it than there is, and so, you know, like unfortunately a lot of people kind of believe this stuff, but yeah, I mean, look, I wanted, when it comes to children and whatnot, I want to say two quick things, because a lot of people don't know about this stuff. One is that like kids under 12, a lot of people think that trans therapies for children means that these kids are actually like undergoing surgeries, taking drugs, whatnot. Usually, I mean, no, all the time, it in America at least, it just means that they are living as the gender that they believe that they are. So they grow out their hair or they cut their hair, and they live as that sex. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like, I mean, do you have a problem with that?
Sort of. I'd say that
why?
Again, I mean, it should be met with extreme skepticism and doubt. So I mean, I don't have a problem with.
Can I tell you?
No, hold on.
Yeah, let him. Let me.
I don't think that discussing whether or not that they think that they are, or even in some cases living it out, but I don't think people who are just absolutely sure and want to push the whole kid dressing up as a, I think there's going to be longer ramifications that they don't understand. Like,
okay, well, how about this? Okay, there was a young girl who was on the cover of National Geographic. This is a very kind of controversial thing, somewhat recently, a few years ago. CC actually made a video about it, but this young girl, okay, her case was like literally around the age of 3, she started realizing that she identified as a female, and her mother actually was a Christian, was like kind of a fundamentalist. She'd literally never heard of transgenderism, and she was kind of shocked by all of it. But the child basically, because of the fact that they were very resistant to her indulging her and basically allowing her to be herself, she was, and at the time she was, I guess you could say she was a he, or they identified her as such. She became suicidal. Like she finally, what actually made them like she was talking about like how she wanted to kill herself in order to in order to go to heaven and have a new start, as the sex that she was supposed to be. And then finally the parents brought her to to professionals one day when she tried to open the car door while the car was moving. She basically like was trying to kill herself. And then and here's the resolution. She had this therapy, and they diagnosed her, and they allowed her to start living as a child, and she went from being this morbid, like suicidal young kid. And who the fuck, what kind of a kid is suicidal, to being energetic, just loving life, and totally well adjusted. So and I've seen lots of other cases that are similar to that. So like, I mean, like this is the sort of thing. It's like, you talk about how it can mess with kids to allow them to do it. Well, it can mess with them to allow them not to do it.
That's very true.
Suicidal.
Well, yeah, and again, I agree with you in cases where it's absolutely necessary. But again, there are lighter cases, and cases where the opposite is true, and you can't just say that those don't exist. And
I don't know if they really
again,
do. I mean, like, are you talking about quote trenders? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm not referring to those.
People who regret it later, I believe, is what he was talking about.
Oh, that's
I've met several people
that is a micro minority.
Micro minority.
It is a micro minority when you take a. Come on, when you can't bring up how intersex people are virtually nothing in the. I mean, we should, don't get me wrong, we should look at that, we should study that. That's something that we like need to avoid as much as possible.
Yes.
But that being said, statistically, when you look at the number of people who like start transitioning and then regret it, it's very low.
Okay. Again, I don't know this. I'm not an expert in this field, and probably you are. Again, we can probably move on from this discussion because it's
sure. You can say your
going on for way too long.
It's something that I in a way, like I wish I was a little more equipped to talk about it, but at the same time, I have done a lot of research on it, and it's something that I'm passionate about because of the fact that there is so much widespread disinformation, and the anti-SJWs on YouTube have spread a lot of bullshit about this. So there are possibly a lot of people who are listening here who are very skeptical of what I'm saying. But again, like I absolutely like in a second, if tomorrow the majority of experts out there in this field started saying, you know what, this is wrong, what we're doing here, it's just we've colossally fucked up or whatever, then I would drop it, like, and I'd be on your side. But that's just the way that the experts happen to interpret things right now.
Yeah, experts who support it, and then there's experts who are against it, and you're just going to say that the other experts are propaganda outlets.
If it's cool, I'd like to throw in like an observation I've made about this.
Sure, go ahead.
So, I live in Sweden, and I think up until like the 80s or 90s, transgenderism, or just, like homosexuality, LGBT people in general, were considered, basically like a birth defect. Don't quote me on this, because like I don't have the best recollection of this, but I have read about this a bit, and that was actually like an opinion experts held for a very long time. So this idea that said expert said so, I mean, like, to me that doesn't hold much value, because I think that what we should be focusing on is what they're saying rather than who's saying it.
Well,
you see what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I mean, sure, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, like, there, you could say that with anything. I mean, like technically, with all different types of scientific theories, technically they could be incorrect. They're more than likely not incorrect. And the thing is that there is a very, like, at this point, there is like close to, I mean, really, in terms of like the medical technology and like the therapies and stuff, they've really been perfecting them for about 30 years, but they've been studying it even more for I mean, it's really closer to like around 50 years. And I mean I guess when it comes to peer review studies and stuff, it's more around like 30 years, and that's a wide, like, you can accumulate a lot of data through that time. And that's why you have, I mean, doctors, like, they are very they can get sued very easily. They're not ones to take huge risks. And so one of the reasons why I hate this, totally aside from the fact that people are kind of discriminated against because of this, one reason why I hate all of this transphobia shit is that it fosters an like a skepticism of the medical community that is unfounded, and it makes people like distrust them. And it's not like they're infallible, but
Sure.
yeah, like it's like the same people who fucking like believe that vaccinating your children is not a good thing. Like they will see things like this, and they get, and it verifies what they believe. Like, oh, look at this.
There's a difference between vaccines, which are obviously going to prevent, that is risking like basically chemical castration. Those are two different things. Ugh. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, it's not chemical castration. That's total garbage. I mean, like,
okay.
I don't think you guys are going to come to any agreement on this particular issue.
If you're talking about taking hormones, then yes, you can call it such. But that occurs at around the age 16, and that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about puberty blockers. So that's
I think I've heard that they've also done this. So
yeah, well, you've gotten bogus information. They're completely reversible.
Okay.
Anyway, so
unless
I guess we'll just move.
Okay, let's move.
Well, yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on. So this is kind of a 2020 related question, because this is something a lot of people have been asking about lately.
Yeah, actually, I think Vadim, you said you were kind of pressed for time, so I think we're gonna have one final topic and then wrap this up and move on to videos with AIDS.
Yeah,
right. I can answer a few other questions if you want to.
All right, sure. So this is a question for you, Vadim. First, Do you believe that Bernie would defeat Trump in an election? I don't even feel the need to really ask you that, but I just want to hear your opinion anyway.
I would like to think he would at this point, because like he's just such a fucking mess, and I think he's like so vulnerable and such a shitty candidate. But yet at the same time, there's a lot. I mean, like, are we saying like if he actually was running against him, like if he got the nomination?
Yeah. In this hypothetical, let's say that Bernie Sanders in 2020 becomes the Democratic candidate.
I think he would, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't put anything past how fucking stupid America can be. So I would, it would not, like, I was not surprised. I was one of the few among my friends who was not surprised when fucking Trump won.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think he would, but I'm not like gonna be one of those people who's like, yeah, 100%, no way he'd lose.
And AIDS?
Yeah, I think Sanders probably would beat him.
Oh, really? Okay. So we actually don't have disagreement. But you,
again,
you would,
I had things that I wanted to bring up to Vadim about Trump.
Would you? All right. All right. Then I guess we can just use the rest of this topic to talk about that shit. But
okay.
Would you even want Bernie to win against Trump, or do you want Trump to win?
I guess I would want Bernie.
Oh, okay. That actually kind of surprises me. But
I'm not a conservative, much to Vadim's surprise.
All right.
I don't think you're necessarily conservative. I like, you sound like, I don't know. I mean, you do sound conservative in a variety of ways.
He's like a left libertarian. He's honestly not all that far off from what I'm.
You sound like you're probably left wing in the same way that like people like Armored Skeptic being left wing.
Okay. What do you define as left wing?
Well, I mean, I don't think that my definition is the definition, I mean, like it so like I don't, but I mean, if you're talking about like what do you mean by that question? Because
again, in your video Armored Skeptic, you basically said that he was a right winger who just won't admit that he's right wing.
Well, I mean, I think he's very politically confused, and he doesn't realize how he either does not realize or does not admit to how right wing certain views that he has are. I mean, his views on concerning everything from immigration, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a let's totally open the borders and let every single person who wants to come in. Although I have much more flexibility than someone like him. There's a whole range of issues that he is, and sometimes I don't even think that he thinks these things. Sometimes I think that because a lot of the things that he says sound like kind of recycled, rehashed versions of things that, like, I don't know, he heard from anyone from Lauren Southern to Jordan Peterson to you're laughing, but I could bring
okay. I don't like Armored Skeptic.
I could bring up a bunch of tweets. What?
I don't like Armored. I'm just trying to bring up something other than Armored Skeptic. It's just mainly about political philosophy. So, do you think that nationalism is right wing?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I mean,
so what if you were, let's say,
that doesn't mean. I mean, it like,
so socialism.
I mean, can you just do this for me? Give me your definition of nationalism.
Just national sovereignty, strong border security. I mean, unless you want to define it as patriotic, then I guess you could say that
it tends to be something
what you define as which is really subjective. really depends on the context of the time, is right wing.
Sure.
But then you also have socialist ideologies, which are, we need to protect our public services by having a strong border and a strong nation. So do you think that that's right wing?
Because you said that you were somewhat libertarian, so this is obviously an issue that you're not a libertarian on.
No, I'm not a socialist at all, but I'm just trying to argue. I'm just trying to say that your definition of politics is just incorrect.
Libertarians are not socialists, but libertarians generally want open borders. You know that, right?
Yeah, I'm not a libertarian. I'm sorry. I said I'm in between a libertarian and a social democrat.
Right. So I'm just pointing that out. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm someone who, like, for instance, do you oppose DACA?
I don't know anything about that issue, so I can't comment.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, DACA is something I kind of doubt if you really heard.
Oh, you mean the childhood thing? I don't really have an issue on it. Like, I don't really care for the issue of DACA, like, one way or the other.
Like, you don't have an opinion. Okay.
All right.
But I do generally am not for sanctuary cities and just
the
mass immigration
is that yeah, I mean, the thing is that if mass immigration, well, that's like what, I don't think we have mass immigration like on
here in America. No, I wouldn't.
What?
I would say here in America we don't, not like in Europe where they really do.
I mean, in Europe, like, for instance, in Germany, like they have one of the best, in spite of the fact that they have this huge influx of refugees and whatnot.
Yeah,
they have one of the best economies in the world, and it's one of the best countries in spite of the fact that, like, there are some right wingers who will make it sound like, like a hellhole and like it's burning down and there are like rape fucking gangs on every corner. But it
definitely does seem like the Scandinavian countries do have an issue with that.
I've heard a couple talking points about that. I'll summarize them quickly as I can.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I would like your opinion.
So usually people will make the argument that Sweden has become like the rape capital of Europe, due to like the fact that rape is way more prevalent now than ever before, or at least in modern times. And then the counter argument I usually hear is, well, it's because rape is so loosely defined due to kind of left leaning culture. I mean, like sexual harassment is sometimes labeled rape in Sweden and other countries as such. Mm-hmm. So that's just putting that out there since we're talking about it.
Yeah, well, I don't really want to discuss the migration issue. I was just using it as a argument for what he defines as left and right wing.
Is there? I guess at this point, this is a good time to ask: is there any last things that we want to get out here? Because Vadim's probably got to go. Go.
I'm just saying is that what I'm saying is that what you think that basically anyone who, so like, again, these are multiple, like, there's tons of complex issues that all have varying sides, and to just say that person is left or right wing, to me, is just ridiculous.
I'm looking. You see, look, I'm I'm a few decades older than you are, dude, and I know what politics was like for many years, and I like have studied like what it was like decades before I was born. And there are certain issues that just that do correspond with the right, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if somebody, I mean, I suppose you could make a case that it's a bad thing, but my problem is not so much when people are right wing, but when people are lean to the right and either don't realize it or act like they like a Dave Rubin, who like for a very long time was saying that he was like basically like, you know, like
he's part of the new center, right?
Yeah, he's part of the new center, but he kind of made it seem as though he, like, at one point the left really like kind of represented his viewpoint, and they never did. Like that's just a bunch of garbage that he spews in order to kind of appeal to both sides, and in order to kind of like, I mean, I don't even know if he fucking realizes it or if he's just a dumbass, but it ends up the Overton window to the right.
Rubin, I don't know. I can't speak for Dave Rubin, but do you think that there is a shift in the political paradigm of, like, let's say 10 years? Do you think that there's any change that happened?
Absolutely, of course there is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because that there is a shift in the zeitgeist, that doesn't change what is what like, for instance, if people all of a sudden were like, you know, fascists, then that wouldn't mean that somebody like George Bush, who is, you know, very to the right, but not a full-blown fascist, that wouldn't mean that he's now a Democrat. You know, that wouldn't mean that he's now left wing. So
here's my problem with my main thesis on why I have a problem with some of your politics. I think that you are kind of projecting Bush era paradigms onto current day political trends at the moment. Because I think that, again, I think you're attaching people with the same label that you attached people back in the Bush era, when I really don't see the same type of Bush era type people being as successful as, let's say, a Donald Trump. Or,
dude, look at Ted Cruz. I mean, I don't think there's any.
Bush was way more successful than like Bush had way higher. I mean,
perhaps, because they were in a war.
And in the first few years, I mean, look, I don't like Bush. I fucking hate Bush. But in the first few years of his presidency, very low approval ratings, and then 9/11 happened, and everyone was sucking his dick. You know,
what I'm saying is that, again, 10 years ago, conservatives were against gay marriage. Like, a majority of them were against gay marriage. A majority of them thought that evolution is a lie, and we put creationism in public schools, all of that bullshit. And I remember you argued that Trump era politics now is more of a theocratic push than the George Bush era, which I just find absolutely ridiculous.
No. You're said, and what I said was, and this is an absolute fact, you can look this up, everybody fucking do it when I leave, but if you look at the percentage wise, because less people came out to vote, but in terms of the percentage of people who did vote, Trump got more votes from the evangelicals than any fundamentalists than any recent president that we've had.
I'll explain that. I know that because
explain it how
because I know these people. I know several religious fundamentalists who, again, a large chunk of these people, if said that they would be willing to vote for Ted Cruz over Trump. That's what the president that they. But again, because the political situation was a lot more intense than it was for the past previous elections, I think that a majority of evangelicals were very passionate about the future of their country and decided to vote for the lesser of two.
They're fucking idiots. They're lemmings, dude.
I don't think that they're smart, but I think that that's what they think. I don't think they just dismiss what
lemmings who I mean that's the thing about like I mean that's one.
I'm not supporting what they believe. I'm saying that this is the reason why they did that, and it's not because they just love that Trump is this just theocratic Christian man. No, in fact I think he's an atheist. Now you can disagree on that, but
So I think one thing that we can
he might be. But like I wouldn't put that past him. He's a total like fucking con artist as far as I know.
And every other Republican candidate, except for him, all didn't believe in evolution. I think it was like a majority, him and then somebody else. So again, if you really want to push this sort of Bush era type religious mindset
but that is
conservatives,
you're still not looking at the big picture here, okay? It's a fact that fundamentalists, and if they did not vote Trump, if the Republican Party did not have this stranglehold on the like a certain base of like the votership, then they just would not win elections, and it wouldn't.
Should they not vote?
What? No, of course they should vote because
but they're lemmings. They're so stupid.
I'm not like a fascist who's going to like deny people that right. But I think that we should be speaking out and trying to inform people as much as possible to say that like, hey, look, this group is being really devious and kind of pandering to these people, and it's not just that they're like giving them empty rhetoric. They like Trump has and is still trying to do a whole lot of different policies that does not represent. I mean, like most people don't want these sorts of things, like expansions. Well, actually,
here's the thing. I actually think that you're wrong, Vadim, and I think it's because political extremism on the left and right has gotten so bad within these past few years that there are people who genuinely do want this shit, and you want to know why they want it? Because they hear other people saying that they want it, and then they want to be part of that tribe.
Right. When I say that people don't want, I mean people definitely want it. I mean, of course, the religious folks want these things. They want to abolish rights to abortion and whatnot and plenty of other things. But when I say that people want that, I'm not necessarily what I'm saying, or when I'm saying that people don't want that, I'm talking about the majority here.
But okay, again,
on most of these issues.
Okay,
can you repeat what you said? Yeah, because that was a bit choppy.
Your main argument, correct me if I'm wrong, is that because evangelicals voted for Trump more than any other president, that therefore the Trump administration has more of a religious push than the Bush administration does.
It has more of a like it's doing more damage, and they've I mean, he's appointed two extremely right-wing SCOTUS judges, which are that's going to affect our country for decades. What I'm saying is that he has dealt the Christian community or the evangelical fundamental community more wins than George Bush did. That's what I'm saying.
Sure about that?
Oh, I'm absolutely positive about that. I mean, I look this, read up on this stuff all the time.
Vadim, you don't. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but could you maybe give like an example of why you think that is compared to the Bush administration, like a specific policy or something?
Right off the bat, I already mentioned to SCOTUS judges. He has appointed tons of other.
Sure. I can agree with
that as well. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but there are all sorts of judges that presidents put into place, and he's done that. He's expanded. There was a memo that came out of a I mean they've already here. Let me look it up because I don't remember the name of the bill off the top of my head, but there was an expansion of quote religious rights, religious protections, which when that's the reason why I say quote is that often when people use that terminology, they're not actual protections. What they are is that they're special privileges for religions that other people don't get. And So there's all sorts of things. There's also, I mean, this probably isn't the best example, but it's just popping into my head. The fact that they moved is Israeli, what is it? The American, what do you call the place where the ambassadorship is
the embassy?
Yeah. They moved the embassy to
Jerusalem, right?
Israel. And in a way, that seems like, oh, that's like like I could see how people would think like, well, what's the big fucking deal with that? Well, that is something that that was something that was done specifically for the evangelical community to they didn't give a fuck otherwise. Like
what
that.
The Bible.
Well, one thing I notice about the right wing these days is that there's a big variety in how people feel about the Jews. You know what I mean by that? There's some people on the right wing who really like Israel, and then there's some people on the right wing who are very far extreme and they don't.
Well, there's you've always had that, and
sure.
The thing is though, the weird thing is though, is that a lot of the Christians who quote like the Jews, I mean, sure, there are some kind-hearted, good Christians out there who who like them for good reasons, just because they're good people. But then there are these people who are basically like using the Jews, who like the Jews because they realize that in according to their doctrine, that if Israel is kind of in like a good place geopolitically, then like the certain things in the Bible will kind of come true. So that's the reason why a lot of certain evangelicals and fundamentalists really defend them as vigorously as they do.
Well, I guess I better move to Israel right now.
I've also heard that the Bible says that Jews need to be here on Earth, like they need to be here alive in order for Jesus' second coming to for Jesus to have his second coming, and for all that shit to happen, the rapture.
Right.
Yeah. Well, again, is that pandering to the religious people? Probably. As much as a religious push as the Bush administration. Again, the Bush administration literally used God to justify.
Look,
that is true.
You are completely fucking underestimating him putting in judges who will more than likely vote, if they have the chance, to at least allow states to decide whether or not abortions can be practiced within their state. And and that, I mean, like that alone. That alone is like huge, and he may get a third one in there.
That's crazy to think, dude. Yeah, like it's so funny too. And the thing that really burns my balls about that is that Obama was set to put someone into the Supreme Court who I think that I saw most people across party lines saying, hey, this is a reasonable guy. He should actually be he seems pretty bipartisan. He should actually be part of the Supreme Court. And of course, like the GOP shut that down. So I do agree with AIDS that there was a lot of that God shit during the Bush administration. But honestly, I don't even know if there's I'm kind of falling in the middle here and saying maybe it's about the same. Like I think it's not. It's kind of like the same old GOP as before.
I don't think that you are aware of the policies that have been passed. Okay. I mean, and just also like dude, Pence is the guy who's really calling the shots here. And
are you sure about that?
Yeah, but by most accounts, he is the person who is really like in terms of like administrative decisions. I mean, sometimes Trump probably does some shit on his own, but there's plenty of reports that say that that's the case.
Again, I don't know if that's anecdotes or accusation. I don't see the same right that I saw 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even like 4 years ago.
It's definitely different. It's definitely different when it comes to the base.
More right wing than
it
it
was. No,
it is.
I mean, maybe economically.
And what? No, not just economically. When it comes to, I mean, like again, like I'll bring up DACA again. Like DACA was something that had bipartisan support for years and years and years. And then Trump came in, and what he basically did is that he decided to do the Southern strategy again, which is very successful. Do you know what the Southern strategy is?
No.
The Southern strategy is basically what the Republicans were doing for years, which is basically playing on the racist sympathies of their base. And that's what he did. He did that with I mean, like, whereas Republicans used to do it often with blacks, now he was doing it with immigrants, and yeah, I mean immigrants in general, but mostly when I say immigrants, I mean like Mexicans and like, you know, Middle Easterners. So
the wall talk and all that rhetoric is basically what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would never have. I mean, that's another thing. Like he's not going to get it, but his push for the wall, that's incredibly. I mean, like look, I would be fine with a wall if it wasn't such a goddamn waste of money. But because like at the end of the day, like it's, you know, like it's like having a border, you know. But but the fact of the matter is that it just would be such a money hole, and that's why it's like the money that we would make from preventing those people from coming in would not we would not make it back. And then also there's also like, I mean, there's we actually do benefit in financially from you know, having illegal immigrants here. Now, whether or not that's better for most Americans, that's debatable. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. I'm a little drunk, guys.
It's all right. It's all right. But I guess I guess if this could be a good place for you to end off, Vadim. You've given us like an hour and 20 minutes.
I think we should have another debate sometime later.
Yeah, I mean, what I like, I didn't even come in like thinking that it was going to be some sort of debate. Like I didn't know what the fuck this was, and you know, like I was out having you know, drinking sake with friends before this.
Sure.
So like, you know, if I mean, I'm definitely not in like, you know, the best, like if you wanted to talk about something sometime, I could come sober and come with you know, facts at my fingertips
and logic.
If you wanted to talk specifically about religious actions that Trump has taken, I'd love to do that sometime, because like, you know, if I took like an hour to kind of write those things down, I'd blow you out of the fucking water on this. So
okay, we can set up something like that. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted you guys to have like a kind of general discussion. You know, and just talk, I guess. I think it was interesting.
I think I'm going to disappoint some people. People were expecting me to call them a libtard
or a communist or something.
No, just calling them a retard.
Oh, okay.
One of those people being me, so I'm kind of disappointed.
Damn, yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I just want to say one thing. For like, is there anything you want to say before you go? I mean, to be completely honest, it was just like, again, that conversation that we had on Twitter was really irritating to me, because the thing is that you were someone who had come to me. I didn't know you that well at all, or really didn't know you. You wrote to me on Facebook, kind of like, you know, basically like, you know, you were, I guess, part of the Drunken Peasants community, and you know, like you were I had a lot of sympathy for some of the things that you were telling me. You basically felt like your friends were being like kind of like bullying you more or less.
Yeah, they were being jerks, basically.
Yeah. And you know, like I have a lot of shit to do, but we but we talked. And when I sent you messages, I like, you know, I was genuinely trying to kind of like cheer you up, make you feel like you know, like a better person, and tell you like not to kind of take the shit seriously. And basically I felt like I was just a nice guy to you, you know? And then like when we talked on Twitter, it was like all of a sudden one day without us having any like negative exchange, you were just, I mean, like I said before, you were a dick.
jerk.
And it's not because
he was being AIDS.
And it's not because you disagree with me. Like I can have conversations with people who I disagree with that are very pleasant, but you were like just really obnoxious with these people. I'm just going to be honest about that. So and that was a real bummer because I was like, man, like
again,
like,
you were taking a lot stronger stances on people that I hang around. So I was just generally frustrated with the way that you were acting towards people, like, you know, Oozaloo at the time, and then the DP Wiki, and just generally you were.
Oozaloo is a really, I mean,
swell guy.
Yeah, he's a swell guy.
He's awesome in my book. No, Oozaloo certainly deserved anything that I threw at him. I mean, like,
no, but it was for shit like, oh, he made jokes. Oh my god, it was so. Oh, I'm so outraged at the jokes before the bodies were even pulled.
What
joined
joke?
on that fucking
name it.
moral grandstanding, and then you. Like,
yeah, I don't think you're right. I think that you're like what are you talking about when Sargon and a bunch of other people were
the ranting the skeptic feminist.
What?
The skeptic feminist shooting.
Yeah, that was. I never said these people should be locked up. I never said that they should be able to. I mean that they shouldn't be able to say those things. I don't think they should be kicked off YouTube for that. But I was just like, hey, these guys are assholes for fucking doing this.
Okay, well,
and that's not.
I was that asshole, and I am still that asshole. Like to put in a box. And in that experience, until that point, I have dealt with so much stuff that I think doing those things aren't really that controversial. To just make jokes about people. I don't believe in the whole too soon bullshit. I genuinely don't. So.
Yeah, well, that's fine, but it like. I mean, look, Louis C.K. has a really hilarious joke. Okay, and the joke goes, you know, I think that the true measure of how horrible a person you are is how long it took you to masturbate after 9/11, and that part is gets a laugh, but then he says, for me, it was in between building 1 and building 2. And you know that's a fucking awesome joke, but the thing is that like what like would you be like I mean not would you be okay, but like would you understand people having a problem if he had told that joke?
Yeah, and
the day after
the reason
day
why
after, or what or how about if he
they are conditioned to not laugh at the joke. That's what I think.
Or what
because
if he,
because
what,
again
what,
they
what if he told it at the funeral of the victim? You know, I mean that's it's like
it's totally different from again making a stream that the people who know the person don't have to watch. Where
yeah, but the thing is that people, yes, people don't have to
I could
watch.
make the exact same argument.
But people are going to watch. They're going to like
Well,
wonder.
yeah, people are going to watch Louis C.K.'s video on 9/11.
Yeah, I know, but but then it's a matter of you just said that too soon doesn't matter. The reason why his joke works is because we've had some time to reflect on shit and it's not as fresh. And if you say and then also that's also a joke that's not really at the expense of those who died, in the same way that the jokes that they were making.
That isn't true. That's bullshit. They were making jokes at the expense of the murderer.
They absolutely were. They absolutely were.
Okay.
They said, yes, I can quote you. Okay. They said that what was it? Oh my God, I'm trying to remember the joke. You could barely call it a joke because it's so bad. But it was one of them said like, is it too soon to how am I? Okay, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically the gist of it was like, is it too soon to praise this person? So that what is the meaning behind that? That's like
the joke is, again, I think I remember I remember was that praising I think it was like praising the person for honesty. I don't think that was at the expense. It was just an edgy joke. And yeah, was it awkward? Yes. But was it at the intentional expense at the person being killed? I don't think so.
Wow.
I wish I had the script in front of me, because then we could really discuss it.
Okay.
But yeah, like I mean like I make tasteless jokes all the time, but it's sort of like just with just like literally hours after this murder has occurred, and you say that people have the right to watch it or not watch it, but there's two things that you are neglecting to think about. One, which is that people who tune in may not even really like know that they're in store for that. And two, sometimes like when like if a friend of mine died and like for some reason like people like Sargon or just as some sort of like group of people who are really popular were talking about them, I very well might want, if I was part of that community especially, I might want to listen in to see what they're saying. And it's just like curiosity will get the best of some people. And it's just sort of like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, they have the right to say those things. And I have a fucking right to say that they're douchebags for saying it. That's all I was saying.
Okay.
I was saying these guys are douches.
Sure, but I mean, like, people have the right to say that the moon is made out of cheese. I mean, like, people have the right to do a thing doesn't mean that they are actually in the right when doing said thing.
Yeah, exactly. See, I think that people try to act like those who have a problem with them saying things are kind of the ones who are being very precious. But I think that it's the fucking people who are telling the jokes. It's like with Creationist Cat. Like if somebody says like, hey, like what and I've had people write me telling me that they were very offended about things, everything from the religious humor to things that, I mean, I made a video that said that we should be able to make jokes about rape. I mean, I don't think all jokes about rape are fine, but it depends on the joke. And so my fucking point is that I stand behind all of those things, and those people, like if I say to those people like hey, if you want to call me a douchebag, fine, call me a fucking douchebag, I don't care. But these people took such exception with the fact that people were criticizing them for making these jokes, and it's sort of like that like that's the territory that you have to you have to own that shit if you're going to, like they want their cake and eat it too, basically is the whole like situation with that. So I don't think that I was like being like, pearl clutching or anything like that, because I mean, I don't know, it's just I'm not going, like, if your mother died tomorrow, like, or someone who you're extremely close to, and I hosted a live event and made all these jokes about, like, praising the person who murdered them and whatnot, like, I would,
That's a very odd comparison to a few tweets. I'm gonna just say that.
I do agree with that. A bit of an exaggeration, perhaps. Like, here's the thing: people make
but it wasn't a few tweets. He's talking about a live conversation that these people had where they were laughing about the death of this person. That's what he's talking about.
No, they weren't laughing about the death.
No, they were.
The fact that this person went to the point of killing someone.
They made,
because they knew the person.
Joke. I mean, I've even talked. Look, I've talked with Kraut about this. Kraut was part of that, and he deeply regrets it, and he thinks it was disgusting. So, like, people who are involved with it feel that way.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I'm sure not everyone. If you went back and talked to the people who made those tweets, I'm sure that you meet some of them at least too, who did. Yeah, or people in the stream. You would meet some people who I'm sure did not stand by doing that type of shit. People move past, like, everyone has their edgy phase on YouTube. I think especially like a few years back, it was like that, right? So, I don't know.
I mean, again, like if just imagine, okay, especially because things are a little more friendly than they were towards like the left than these days than maybe like 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, or even now, if like Chrissy and Christy Winters and Kevin Logan and who else, maybe me, throw me in there, sure. If Sargon's, let's say that Sargon's kid was murdered, and we were making jokes saying like, hey, is it too soon to praise this murderer for?
Okay, let me change the standards. No,
what?
It would be more accurate. Let's say if and the people there made jokes.
What?
Yeah, because the standard was.
Can you repeat that?
Because again, the stream, they were making fun of a YouTuber named the Skeptic Feminist, who eventually ended up killing his girlfriend. So if anything, it would make more sense if they had a live stream where Sargon of Akkad ended up, let's say, killing his children and made jokes about that.
I'm sorry, I did not follow that. What?
I'm saying that your analogy doesn't hold up.
It totally, the analogy works just perfectly, because it's both, but they are both situations.
Okay.
Where no, like, I think that
no, you've taken out the context. The joke is that they're making the joke at the expense of the killer.
But they didn't make the expense. When they say, is it too early to congratulate him? What is the meaning behind that? Okay, the meaning is, oh, you should be congratulated because you killed a feminist. And
I think it more has
at the expense of the woman. Okay, now look,
it's at the expense of a person, but it's not necessarily saying like, this is how I feel about this. It's more like, okay, they did something to somebody I would have a lot of disagreement with. It's a statement made hyperbole.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that they never met this person. They probably had no clue who she was. But it's still at her expense. I mean, like, oh man, I'm too fucking drunk to like come up with a good example. But like that is clearly aimed. That's not at the expense of the killer. that's at the expense of the person who died. It's saying that the person who died, because they are a feminist, that it's good that they died, and then
okay.
I know that they don't really think that. I know that if they were like next to the killer, that they wouldn't high five him. I'm not a fucking moron, but it's still like it's still like just incredibly fucking insensitive to do that hours after. So like, I mean, it's just fucking tasteless. Like it's.
At the end of the day, I think this is one thing that we can all agree with. It was just it was an edgy, probably unneeded joke that but it happened. I mean, it fucking happened, and here we are, like years later. Still, I don't really know.
To me, this is kind of like listening. To me, this is kind of like listening to people complain about different genres within comedy. I mean, like it's shock humor.
Arguing about Vadim was trying to say how he felt betrayed by me just suddenly being an asshole, and I was explaining that I didn't like the political sides that you took on. It led me to go down a path where I made kind of jokes at your expense, and then it just culminated into me just being annoyed by your Twitter. Say, hey, I'm just outright annoyed on your defense of everything that the left does that could be considered anti-science, just things that I just don't approve of. And then we got into an argument about that.
Right there, because I mean, like for instance, like GMO.
Now you're doing the whole right. They're you just all deny science, and the left wingers, they're just accepting of science. They love science, and the only good thing. It's only what the right wingers also think about science. The left wingers agree on. That's also anti-science. It's never nothing that's exclusive to the left.
Let Vadim say.
Yeah, finally, let Vadim talk.
I think you're really off base here, because what I was about to say is that like GMO denial when it comes, I mean, genetically modified organisms are perfectly healthy. And there is some skepticism of that from the right, but you get more of that on the left. And
yes, it's true.
And like the Young Turks, again, like I like the Young Turks, but the Young Turks have done several segments where they talk about how bad GMOs are, and they're being really fucking ignorant. Now, like, look, I can, if I was the sheep that you think I am, and I was trying to kowtow to the predominant left-wing paradigm, I would totally, like Bernie has actually also talked about GMOs and how they're bad, and I fucking love Bernie, but Bernie's just being he is not informed on that topic. So I'm not like some sort of follower who just goes with the flow, who just kind of does things because either the group does them or because I like a certain group of people, and I want to be accepting of them and want them to feel good. I've never been that kind of person,
But again, I really don't see that much of anti-GMO sentiment on the left, and I see it predominantly more on the right.
Well, there's a great deal of it actually.
Perhaps, but
in Europe, it's huge, and they've actually excluded. Like one of the reasons why it's such an important topic is because it has the capability of eliminating hunger in like third world countries, and Europe has basically gotten it banned in certain African countries, and so that's a fucking horrible, awful thing, and the left is responsible for that. So again, I'm willing to kind of like when there are genuine, real problems with the left, I'm willing to call them out. I'm willing to talk about them. There's many others. I like I was talking about in the beginning. I had an argument with Jimmy Dore And like, you know, that guy, since I had that conversation with him, I've like realized like what a fucking conspiracy theorist that guy is. I mean, like, I knew conspiracy theories, but they're like, the dude is a 9/11 conspiracy
Okay,
theorist.
I don't want to talk about GMOs with you. I'm just generally saying.
This is going on.
What I'm doing is that I'm offering this to let you know that I'm not this person. Clearly not this person.
Yeah, but I don't really see GMOs as that much of a left-right wing divide.
What?
GMOs are not really that much of a left-right wing divide. They're not divided on this issue. It's, again, when you generally talk about complaining about the left, it's usually mostly the left versus the left, because you have the left that's pro GMO, and then you have the left that's anti-GMO.
I think really what this is that you just have your pet issues that annoy you, and like, you know, and I just, you know, like I believe certain things that you don't. So like I don't, I mean, like, that doesn't mean that I don't call out the left. Like for instance, like Antifa. Like I have argued with both people on the right and the left about Antifa, because like there are some people on the right who I think, like, you know, try and like demonize them, try and make them seem as bad as the alt-right, and then there are people and
I'm sorry, Vadim, they are.
Well,
they're worse, in fact, and because they're the ones who are actually going around actually doing action. The alt-right is just sitting there, and as soon as provoked, they start doing the violence, and we can argue about that, but I think that I don't know. Are we out of time?
I feel like we've kind of reached an impasse here. I'm going to give you guys both 2 minutes.
No. Look, I have to say that just finish what I was saying, which was that I've also argued with people on the left saying, like, look, Antifa, they're not fucking angels, and they, like, I don't think that they are like, and you know, like, going about things the right way, and I think that they do more harm than good. So
so I'm gonna give you guys both. You guys can both have a couple minutes to say the last things that you have on your mind. So I guess you can go first.
Who said? Is it me?
Yeah, you can go first. Do you have any like concluding statements to say just on this conversation in general?
I just generally think that the way you view politics is just, I don't think it's accurate. I don't think the political sides that you see and you describe are really what these people actually think. And I think that the right in this country has moved a lot more to reason than before, and you disagree with me on that. We've talked about that for like 3 hours.
No. I think
all right. Well, is that all you want to say, Eggs?
Yeah, just generally that's what I want to say.
All right, then you can say your piece.
I mean, just like they've realized that certain things like homophobia and you know, certain trends that they used to be kind of synonymous with, they've realized that that's not going to get them votes. So, and then also people just have gays have kind of become more prevalent in society, and people realize that they're good people. So yes, I don't think that all of the right wing is as homophobic as they once were, but it's still like the right wing is more like it's like, just look at any like anyone who is not super right wing, who is either who is like in the middle, like they will man, I'm so like, I've had so much sake that it's unfortunate that I'm trying this point, but my point is that the right has shifted further to the right. The whole when it comes to like politics in America, like the left is more right wing, and I'm not talking about like the Friend. I'm not talking about SJWs and whatnot, but like fucking like the reason why Hillary Clinton lost is she was a neoliberal, because she was trying to appeal to the right wing, and they're not going to beat the right wing at their own game, you know. So
no, I don't disagree. I don't think he would disagree either with that statement, at least. But so yeah, there you have it. I guess our first debate here on Underhaven, our first, I don't know, political discussion.
An attempt at a debate.
Yeah, an attempt. We tried. It was interesting.
I thought, I mean, like you didn't even tell me that this was supposed to be like a debate. I thought that this was just like, oh, he wants to talk to you about like, you know, some kind of I thought it had to do.
I just wanted you guys to get everything off your chest that you guys wanted to say to each other, because it seemed like there was stuff that had to be said over the course of you know, the past 4 years. You guys took shots at each other on Twitter and stuff here and there. So I just figured that it would be cool to get something up in the air. And
I mean, I never really took shots at him. I took shots at him like
you know what I mean. I don't really mean that.
Like when we were talking together, maybe I did, but like I don't think I've ever commented on this guy, whereas like somebody sent me
good night everyone to our totally live audience right now. Well, I mean, yeah, good night guys. I think we're just gonna wrap it up.
Damn you,
now.
Twitch. Damn you.
We'll have you on for videos another time, Aids. This has gone on for quite a while.
Yeah. This is pre-recorded, right?
Yeah. It goes. Yeah.
It goes on. That bit out, please.
So thank you to Vadim, thank you to Aids for being on. This has been a very interesting conversation, in my opinion, at least.
All right. Good night, everyone, and thank you for your time.
Sucks.
Peace.
Peace.
In the damn morning, been too long since I woke myself up, snoring, I've been up, worrying myself into a mess while replaying a life's worth of memories I'd rather repress. You call it life, I call it stress. If your thoughts are yours, then they must be the best. I hate being talented, but every now and then I take the time to wonder if I wasn't born with it. Would I even have purpose? Every thought I have is scandalous. My brain is chaos and nobody can handle this. I see sound in fourth-dimensional shapes. Spend every day stuck in the planet of the apes. It's about facts, nah, it's about race. It's about gender, just ignore climate change. Abuse from my peers led to incurable rage. Now a crowded room feels a lot more like a cage. If somebody looks at me the wrong way, I think about it all day. Let that fester inside, boil in my mind. Even if your look was innocent and benign, I still wanna rip your fucking guts out. Chew them up with my mouth, shove a spike up yourself. Cut your body up and leave the bits around town. I'm the clown who came to town to write this on the wall.